In the pantheon of 20th century dictators, few rulers were as ideologically rigid, isolationist, and pathologically paranoid as Enver Hoxha. As the leader of Albania from 1944 until his death in 1985, Hoxha carved out a singular place in global history. A tiny Balkan country transformed into a hermetically sealed, hyper-Stalinist state that became a geopolitical and cultural time capsule. His reign fused Marxist-Leninist dogma with personal cultism and unyielding suspicion, making Albania not only the most isolated nation in Europe, but arguably the most surreal. Hoxha's four-decade rule saw the establishment of a tightly controlled one-party state, the annihilation of religion, the building of a national bunker network unlike anything seen elsewhere, and a radical redefinition of Albanian life. But beneath the ideological trappings lay a dictatorship driven more by fear than faith, more about preserving power than serving the people. Enver Hoxha was born on October 16, 1908, in Gjirokastër, a hilltop town in southern Albania known for its stone houses and steep Ottoman streets. He was born into a Muslim family, though his later policies would be violently anti-religious. His father was a cloth merchant, and the young Hoxha received a relatively privileged education, eventually attending the French-language National Lyceum in Korçë. He studied briefly at the University of Montpellier and later at the University of Paris, where he was exposed to Marxist thought. While his academic record was spotty, Hoxha found his real education in communist ideology. Upon returning to Albania, he became involved with various leftist movements, and by the late 1930s, he was a committed Marxist-Leninist. During World War II, Hoxha led the communist-dominated National Liberation Movement, resisting both Italian and German occupation. With the help of Yugoslav communists, especially Tito's partisans, Hoxha's forces grew in strength. In 1944, with Axis forces retreating and the monarchy in collapse, Hoxha's communists filled the power vacuum. He swiftly consolidated his control, eliminating rivals, and was declared the Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of War, and Commander-in-Chief. Hoxha wasted no time transforming Albania into a communist state modelled on the Soviet Union. In 1946, the monarchy was formally abolished and the People's Republic of Albania declared. By 1948, Albania was fully under one-party communist rule, but Hoxha wasn't content to merely follow Stalin's blueprint. He amplified it. The state expropriated land from landlords, nationalized industry, collectivized agriculture, and created a vast secret police network, the Sigurimi, to monitor dissent. Thousands were imprisoned or executed in purges, often based on the flimsiest of suspicions. The Gulag system became integral to Albania's justice. Meanwhile, Hoxha's image was elevated to near mystical status. His portraits hung in every school, office, and home. His writings were required reading, and his speeches dissected like sacred texts. He became the teacher, the soul guide, the greatest Marxist-Leninist of the era, a man whose word was infallible. In reality, though, he was increasingly isolated, prone to micromanagement, and obsessed with ideological purity. Hoxha's first major international rupture was with Yugoslavia. Initially allied with Tito, Hoxha turned on him after the Tito-Stalin split in 1948, accusing the Yugoslav leader of betraying Marxism. Albania became a loyal satellite of Stalin's USSR instead. But the Soviet honeymoon didn't last either. After Stalin's death in 1953, Nikita Khrushchev began a process of de-Stalinization. This was heresy to Hoxha, who idolized Stalin. In 1961, Albania broke ties with the USSR, accusing it of revisionism. Hoxha ejected Soviet advisors, renounced Soviet aid, and became the only leader in Europe who still referred to Stalin as comrade rather than monster. Albania's last major alliance was with Maoist China, which it supported during the Sino-Soviet split. Mao Zedong and Hoxha found common ground in their mutual hatred of Khrushchev's reforms. But after Mao's death in 1976 and Deng Xiaoping's rise, China too shifted toward pragmatism. Hoxha responded with characteristic fury, denouncing the Chinese as yet another pack of revisionist traitors. In 1978, he severed ties with Beijing, completing Albania's descent into total isolation. By the late 1970s, Albania was friendless, aidless, and trapped in a fortress of its own making. Nowhere is Hoxha's paranoia more evident than in his infamous bunker project. Convinced that enemies lurked around every corner, he ordered the construction of a staggering 173,000 bunkers across the country, concrete domes meant to resist artillery, air raids, and, well, possibly even divine wrath. These mushrooms were built in cities, hills, farms, beaches, even in cemeteries. They were practically useless militarily, but cost an estimated 2% of Albania's GDP annually during peak construction. Each bunker came with a machine gun port and a claustrophobic interior designed for lone defenders. They became the physical manifestation of Hoxha's worldview: fortified, solitary, suspicious. In 1967, Hoxha launched one of the most radical anti-religious campaigns in modern history. He declared Albania the world's first atheist state. All religious institutions were shuttered, repurposed, or demolished. Clergy were imprisoned or killed, and even possessing a Bible, Quran, or rosary could lead to a prison sentence. Christianity, Islam, and Bektashi Sufism, all traditional to Albanian culture, were labeled opium. Public worship was outlawed. The state redefined morality through Marxist-Leninist doctrine, replacing faith with ideology. Children were taught to report religious behavior in their families. Weddings, funerals, and births were all secularized. This aggressive campaign damaged Albania's cultural and spiritual heritage profoundly. Albania under Hoxha was not just a political dystopia, it was an economic catastrophe. Following Stalinist autarky, Hoxha banned foreign trade and aid. Imports were minimal, and foreign investment non-existent. The country's infrastructure stagnated, consumer goods were rare, and electricity blackouts were routine. Despite some early progress in education and literacy, the broader economy was a mess. Industrial output was poor, agriculture barely met subsistence levels, and healthcare was basic at best. Roads were underdeveloped, automobiles were rare, and contact with the outside world was virtually non-existent. The social fabric was equally grim. Travel abroad was forbidden. Listening to foreign radio or watching foreign films was criminalized. Blue jeans, long hair, or Western music were considered signs of bourgeois decadence. Families lived in fear of denunciation, and children were indoctrinated from an early age to revere Hoxha as a father figure. In his later years, Hoxha withdrew more from public life, though he maintained control through the Party of Labour. Behind the scenes, he grew increasingly erratic, issuing lengthy ideological treatises attacking everyone from Tito, Khrushchev, Eurocommunists, and even Fidel Castro. He suffered from diabetes and other ailments and gradually passed power to Ramiz Alia, his protege. Hoxha died on April 11, 1985, at age 76. His funeral was a somber yet orchestrated affair, attended by top party members but largely ignored by the international community. Today, Enver Hoxha is remembered with a mix of fear, mockery, and morbid fascination. His portraits have been removed, his books pulped, and his statues torn down, but the scars of his rule remain. The bunkers still dot the landscape, some repurposed as cafes or museums, others left to decay. The economy he crippled took decades to recover. The families he divided and the culture he silenced are still healing. To some Albanians, especially older generations, Hoxha represents stability in a chaotic region. For most, however, he symbolizes repression, stagnation, and a profound disconnection from the modern world. Enver Hoxha's dictatorship was a grim blend of ideological fervor and personal paranoia. His unwavering Stalinism, cult of personality, and xenophobic policies created a nation that was as much a prison as it was a state. Hoxha left behind not a thriving communist paradise, but a country isolated, impoverished, and haunted by concrete ghosts. Thanks for watching. For more bite-sized bits of blistering history, please like and subscribe.